Hello and welcome to WightWanderer. I'm Jack, and today you join me on a very wet and foggy St Boniface Down overlooking the rather eerie looking town of Ventnor. Now, a couple of weeks ago I was actually here looking for a ghost station, which is a subject that is perhaps more apt for this kind of weather, but today I'm actually here because of you guys. See, about a year ago we made a video called Why Ventnor Needs a Railway, delving into the issues that the town is currently experiencing with land movement and how it is affected and will continue to affect the road connections in the future. And in that video I actually proposed the regeneration of the railway as a viable solution to the problem. Of course, using the old track bed and the tunnel, which may soon be the only way in and out of Ventnor that is not subject to subsidence. Now, that is a very abridged version of the argument I actually made in the video itself, and if you want more detail I'll include a link to that video at the end of this one. But the goal was to get people to talk and discuss possible solutions to this ongoing problem, and you guys certainly did respond in a big way, because to this day that video is by far the most watched of all our episodes on the channel at a little over 20,000 views.
Now, I realise in the world of YouTube, 20,000 views is a mere drop in the ocean, not exactly Mr. Beast territory. But for an amateur channel on a rather niche subject, that's still a fair amount. So why so many views then? Well, I'd like to say it's down to the quality of my filming technique.
Oh, sake, come on.
But I highly doubt it. Perhaps then it's simply the fact that this subject matters to a very many people, especially those who live in and around the town of Ventnor.
So today, 1 year later, I thought I'd come back and take a fresh look at the issue, why it matters to a lot of people, what exactly has happened over the past year, and essentially whether a railway into Ventnor is still a viable solution.
Ventnor then, a picturesque town located on the southeastern edge of the Isle of Wight, built into a steep hill shadowed by St Boniface Down. This setting is, during the summer at least, somewhat reminiscent of some locations on the Mediterranean. But in large, it has one big issue: the land which much of it, especially the road access, is built on. This time last year, things were rather dire. The area of Leeson Road had just been hit with an enormous landslide. 11 hectares of earth plummeting into the bay, just east of Bonchurch. This naturally caused a traffic nightmare, with Leeson Road being the main commuter artery in and out of town.
As concerns grew, a public meeting was held here at St Catherine's Church in town, and I was actually one of the people that attended, along with hundreds of concerned residents, town councillors, the MP at the time, Bob Seeley, and Island Road representatives. Despite heated discussions though, the outcome was inevitable. The road would remain closed for the foreseeable future.
In May of 2024, another meeting was held after more slips in the area had occurred. One knocking out the traffic lights on Gills Cliff Road. Ventnor's residents at the meeting were increasingly anxious about the ongoing situation. And it was at this meeting, whilst alluding to the question of why monitoring equipment had not yet been installed, the CEO of Island Roads remarked that no engineering solution for increased stability at Leeson Road was possible. Basically, in short, we can monitor, but if it goes, it goes. This naturally angered some residents, replying that perhaps advice should be sought from other engineers.
Now, we're not going to get into this whole he said, she said malarkey, because it doesn't help anyone. What we are going to do is take a look at another main road in and out of Ventnor, which has been causing major traffic headaches over the past year.
You see, early on in 2024, with Ventnor's main transport route split, traffic had to be diverted inland via the B3327, causing congestion and virtually doubling the amount of daily bus services using the road. This put extra strain on a small section of this route up by the top of town, known locally as the Graben, an area which had already been experiencing problems with land stability. When I last visited a year ago, cracks had already started appearing in the surface, and things since haven't got much better. The road itself between then and now was closed at intermediate intervals, the most disruptive being in June of last year, when with Leeson Road still shut, the Graben also closed for a period of 2 weeks, causing traffic nightmares with tourist season entering its stride. The popular seaside destination then, for a time, was left with only one main road serving it, via a dog's leg of a journey through the village of Whitwell.
Yet in spite of this, things did start to get better. On the 17th of July, Leeson Road reopened with one-way traffic lights at the top of the hill. This, though, would not endure, and by September, the road was once again shut.
This closure was to enable installation of some more monitoring equipment to sample layers of geology below Leeson Road. In October, it was reported that further smaller landslips had taken place, increasingly eroding the land behind the Smuggler's Haven and narrowing the gap between Leeson Road and the edge.
However, in December, the road reopened once again, and since then, there's been little in the way of drama. The boreholes have been dug, the equipment installed, and Island Roads have done a good enough job on site. The equipment, though, is there to monitor, and as soon as it detects any kind of movement, it's likely the road will close once more. It is not a long-term strategy, but rather a commuter protective measure. So what do we do then when the inevitable happens? Now, I understand that public transport isn't exactly everybody's cup of tea. Most of you watching probably own your own car, and if you do so, then good on you. But a car, or indeed any kind of roadworthy vehicle, is no good if the roads are no longer there, or indeed the ones that still are clogged up with diverted traffic. What we need then is a route that doesn't rely on the unstable surfaces that these roads are built on, and luckily our Victorian ancestors left us one.
A railway to Ventnor then? Well, essentially, it is what needs to happen. A railway is by far the fastest and most economically friendly way to commute between local destinations. And with the country apparently willing to spend hundreds of billions on new high-speed rail across the Midlands, then surely a 5-mile extension along an already existing trackbed in order to reconnect a town desperately in need of future transport investment would be a no-brainer.
Now, I've covered most of that in the previous video, but there is an element to the subject which I felt I didn't quite cover enough. You see, a railway into Ventnor wouldn't just benefit Ventnor itself. It would also benefit another important community in the area, and that area is down there somewhere.
I am of course talking about Wroxall, a large village nestled in the valley between St Boniface and Appledurcombe Down, the location of the famous Appledurcombe House and home to over 1,500 residents. Wroxall once had its own station. It was in fact the only intermediate station between Shanklin and Ventnor. But in 1966, the line south of Shanklin was closed, and much like Ventnor, Wroxall was left without a railway. To get more insight on Wroxall and its transport connections, I've arranged to meet up with a young resident called Finley, member of the Green Village Volunteers and founder of the Isle of Wight Film Productions YouTube channel. Finley, though not keen to appear on camera, was more than happy to talk about the area of Wroxall in which he lives. During our brief encounter, we discussed transport connections through Wroxall and how the railway was taken away before the village itself had fully developed. Finley was keen to get a railway back into Wroxall and felt it would be of great benefit to the village. He also remarked on, as someone who works in Ventnor, if the Graben closed again this year, he would probably have to walk to work via the footpaths.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame, it's just a big deal.
Hopefully then, for his benefit and others in the village, there will be no more closures. Though judging by the state of the road surface at the moment, it does seem inevitable. One more point then to reinstate the railway. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because as I stated last year, there are a couple of issues with this proposal. And certain events in the past 12 months have thrown a few extra spanners into the works.
Now, the subject of politics is a rather controversial one, especially at the moment. So it's something I tend to steer clear of completely on the channel. But in order to explain why a railway to Ventnor may be problematic in the future, I'm going to have to bend that rule slightly. Now, one of the ways in which the railway could have been reinstated would have been via the government's Restore Your Railway Fund, responsible for lines such as the Dartmoor line in 2021. But as you could probably tell by my use of the past tense, this scheme has now been axed.
With the government in debt and the railway that shall not be named costing a not too small fortune, it would seem that any kind of future railway development plans have been hung out to dry. This may not be a complete full stop though, rather leaves on the line. But for the time being at least, the train has been delayed. There may be though another option, and do bear with me on this one. How about a guided bus system?
Now, I realise to a railway fan a guided bus system is a bit like a rotten egg. But remember, the subject of this video is not railway nostalgia, but rather making sure that Ventnor stays connected with some kind of viable and maintainable public transport system. And a guided bus may just be the answer.
Cambridgeshire and Greater Manchester are two areas that have adopted the guided bus option in recent years, using old railways as express bus routes. This is not a new suggestion. There is already a Facebook group campaigning for a guided bus system on the island. But is it a realistic alternative? Well, on the whole, yes. For one, the bus could simply join and leave the guided highway if and where it needs to. This would solve the issue of a lack of a road bridge at Landguard Manor Road. An essential structure for a railway, but not for a bus.
Now, the main problem that a railway into Ventnor would face is exactly the same dilemma that the Victorians had when they built the line in 1866. The station itself is situated high above the town, and the only access road is very steep indeed. Now, this could be solved by a shuttle bus service linking the station to the town, and this could easily link up with every timetable train and wouldn't have to use any of the roads which are currently in danger of subsiding. But then again, a bus could just simply leave the tunnel and off the guided system onto the road down to the town without any changeover.
This option would have its restrictions though. For example, the height of the tunnel. The busway would have to be limited to single deckers only, which on busy bank holidays and the summer season may be a bit of a squeeze. Also, if we want this transport system to be economically viable and somewhat future-proof, then it would have to be electric. And as we know, when it comes to electric motive power, the trains have the buses well and truly beaten on research and development alone. There are then major benefits to both options, but also significant hurdles to overcome.
But then again, a solution is needed, as I keep saying, because this problem won't just go away on its own. So do you have a better idea? Do comment below if you think you do, and I try to respond to as many of you as possible. For the next video, I will be reverting to type. You'll be hopefully glad to hear, delving into a little bit of railway history and Isle of Wight nostalgia. So until then, thank you very much for watching as always, and we will see you again next time. Bye bye.